Well, good evening,
Good evening.
Saul, John, Gladys, and everybody out there in YouTube land, not live. Yeah. Welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame in Guyra, Wednesday Words Open Mic Night on this 12th of May 2021. And we'll begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of this great land now known as Australia, and acknowledging custodians of this land I stand on, the Banjo people, and the ancestors past, present and emerging. Tonight, behind me, I've got Uncle, and I must give a warning, this is an image and a name of to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, someone who is passed away, Uncle Kevin Gilbert, 1933 to 1993. And there's going to be a whole series of these murals of different famous poets going into this place over the next few months. Regardless of the fact, well, whether or not I get the grant for $3,000, $5,000 to do 10 of them, but I can still continue on slowly anyway. Kevin Gilbert's work as a writer, a visual artist, a poet and a playwright is quite significant. He was born on the banks of the Lachlan River in New South Wales, or what's known as New South Wales in Wiradjuri country. He lost his parents at an early age, and he later escaped from an orphanage and lived in fringe camps with his extended family and Wiradjuri elders, where he developed a knowledge of the Wiradjuri language and culture. Life on the edge in rural Australia also became introduced him to those harsh factors that became recurrent themes in his art, writing racism, violence and alienation. Someone mentioned today to me that he began writing while he was incarcerated, so much like so many of our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Gilbert believed that life for Aboriginal Australian people was too real, too close to the knuckle of oppression for abstract interpretation. Beneath the surface tranquility of Christmas Eve in the land of the dispossessed as a bold statement, vibrantly drawn of the dislocation and disparity between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Kevin Gilbert participated in the Aboriginal land rights and sovereignty movement, and in the 1972 establishment of the Aboriginal Tent Embassy in Canberra and the Treaty 88 campaign, which worked for a sovereign treaty between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Australians. Gilbert nonetheless believed that art was the tool that could most acutely expose continual injustices suffered by Aboriginal people and help build bridges and suggest ways forward. And this is Eagle by Kevin Gilbert. Let's move that so you can see Eagle. I saw Big Eagle watching me while he sat on the old gum tree. I thought, I'm glad I'm as big as me and not as big as Finch. Kevin Gilbert. Simple, but powerful. I had the fortune to head down to Armidale yesterday, and I came across the well, I knew about it anyway, the Rotary annual book fair. I picked up this one, a Porter selected, which is selected poetry of Peter Porter, who was an Australian poet who spent a lot of his life living in England. He did return to Australia in the 1950s after his first wife committed suicide. Kevin Gilbert also attempted suicide twice, but in his later life he found his love and returned. Seahorses. When we were children, we would cheer to find a seahorse among the wrack the breakers lifted. On the beach, sometimes 2 or 3 were together, a team to pull a chariot of cuttle, or like a suicide wreathed in fine sea ivy and bleached sea roses. One stiff but apologetic in its trance, seahorses were Vikings. Somewhere they impassively launched on garrulous currents, seeking a far grave wherever that was. They set their stallion, noses to it, ready to be garnered in the sea's time, at the sea's pleasure. If we wondered why we loved them, we might have thought they were the only creatures which had to die before we could see them. If this early rule of death, we'd recognise the armorial pride of head, the unbending seriousness of small creatures, credit them with the sea's rare love, which threw them to us in their beauty, unlike the vast and pitiable whale, which must be quickly buried for its smell. Peter Porter. This one here, The Australian and Other Verses by W.H. Ogilvie. Will Ogilvie probably needs little introduction, but probably does need a lot of introduction these days. His name stands with those of Paterson and Lawson among the Australian bush balladists who played an important part in the upsurge of national literature in the 90s, that is the 1890s, and has remained, well, the most popular of all Australian verse, the bush ballads. And yet Ogilvie was not an Australian. Born in Scotland in 1869, he spent only 12 years in this country, from 1888 to 1901. A drover, a horsebreaker, a station hand, he knocked about the outback and got to know the country better than most Australians at the time. He came to love it, perhaps better than most, and though his native country called him back in the end, he still looked back with affection to his Australian period and the people and the country he had called this land of mine. As evidence in this collection containing his recollections of the sunny country and his great poem, The Australian, which commemorates Australians at Gallipoli. Okay, this is called Song of the Poets. Bridges, Abercrombie, Davis, Yeats and Noyce, yet favoured few. Music of Myrtle and Mavis echoing in the song of you. Watson wrapped in purple splendour, Newbolt nursing England's pride, Kipling proud, majestic, tender, Masefield from the world ways wide. Poets while in days of weeping, lost romance is mourned and dead. Yours the gold torch, yours the keeping of the old fires fanned and fed. When the wheels of commerce whirring still the harp and drown the lyre, and the world's warm pulse is stirring to throb of new desire, while the feet of fashion trample on the heart of him who sings Time shall trust your brave example as ye sweep your golden strings. Here and there some soul shall listen to your message faint but clear. Cheeks shall glow and eyes shall glisten. Doubting hearts take hope for fear. Sing ye seers in pride and splendour, sing ye bards of love and life. Tune your lyres to music tender, blow your trumpet calls to strife. Bear the truth, the hope, the wonder, point the wildflower in the grass. Light the glory, lose the thunder, pluck the robes of those that pass. Say the one world still holds beauty, say romance is not yet dead. Yours the torch is yours the duty, that the fires be fanned and fed. A Song of the Poets by Will H. Ogilvie. Now, there's another one I want to do here. The Australian, that's one of his more famous ones, page 7. This is about the Gallipoli man. The skies that arched his land were blue. His bush-born winds were warm and sweet, and yet from earliest hours he knew the tides of victory and defeat. From fierce floods thundering at his birth, from red droughts ravening while he played, he learnt to fear no foes on earth, the bravest thing God ever made. The bugles of the motherland rang ceaselessly across the sea to call him and his lean brown band to shape imperial destiny. He went by youth's grave purpose willed, the goal unknown, the cost unweighed, the promise of his blood fulfilled, the bravest thing God ever made. We know it is our deathless pride, the splendour of his first fierce blow, how reckless, glorious, undenied. He stormed those still-lying cliffs we know, and none who saw him scale the height behind his reeking bayonet blade would rob him of his title right, the bravest thing God ever made. Bravest where a world of men are brave beyond all earth's rewards, and stoutly none shall charge again till the last breaking of the swords. Wounded or hail one home from war, or yonder by the lone pine laid, give him his due forevermore, the bravest thing God ever made. And it should be noted that that was written after he returned back to Scotland. So he lived here up until 1901. He was back in Scotland by that time, and 1915 to 1918. Next one. Sorry?
That was a good one.
It was, yeah. I've got another book, The Illustrated Treasury of Australian Verse, and this is a Henry Lawson one. It just happened to open to this page called To Jim. Oh, that's ironic. But anyway, to Jim. I gaze upon my son once more, with eyes and heart that tire, as solemnly he stands before the screen drawn round the fire, with hands behind clasped hands in hand, now loosely and now fast, just as fathers used to stand for generations past. Fair and slight and childish form and big brown dreamy eyes, God help him, for a life of storm and strife before him lies. A wanderer and gypsy wild, I've learnt the world and know, for I was such another child many years ago. But in those dreamy eyes of him there is no hint of doubt. I wish that you could tell me, Jim, the things you dream about. Dream on and dream the world is true and things not what they seem. 'Twill be a bitter day for you when wakened from your dream. But oh, beware of bitterness when you are wronged, my lad. I wish I had the faith in men and women that I had. 'Tis far better, for I have felt the sadness of my song, to trust all men and still be wronged, than to trust none and be wrong. Be generous and still do good, and banish while you live the spectre of ingratitude that haunts the ones who give. But if the crisis comes at length, that your futures might be marred, strike hard, my son, with all your strength. For your own self's sake, strike hard. Henry Lawson, and that is to Jim.
To Jim, so you've been striking hard, Jim.
Yeah, why not, eh? Yeah. Now, I really want to do a banjo. You wanted me to do Man from Ironmark or the Man from Snowy River, the Travelling Post Office, or Clancy of the Overflow.
Post office.
Sorry?
Travelling post office?
Righto, fair enough.
Okay. I can't recall that one. I think I know the others.
Yeah.
Me either, so I'm glad you chose it. So yeah, it's going to test my reading. That's all right.
I should have a read of one of those ones one day.
Yeah.
Got some there.
Clean the glasses so I can see it all right. I have read this one before, but yeah. The Travelling Post Office. The roving breezes come and go, and the reed beds sweep and sway. The sleepy river murmurs low and loiters on its way. It is the land of lots of time along the Castle Ray. The old man's son had left the farm. He found it dull and slow. He drifted to the great northwest, where all the rovers go. He's gone so long, the old man said, he's dropped right out of mind. But if you'd write a line to him, I'd take it very kind. He's shearing here and fencing there, a kind of waif and stray. He's droving now with Conroy's sheep along the Castle Ray. The sheep are travelling for the grass and travelling very slow. They may be at Mundooran now, or past the overflow, or tramping down the black soil flats along the Waddy Wong. But all those little country towns would send the letter wrong. The mailman, if he's extra tired, would pass them in his sleep. It's safest to address the note to care of Conroy's sheep. For 25,000 head can scarcely go astray. You write to care of Conroy's sheep along the Castle Ray. By rock and ridge, the riverside and western mail has gone across the great blue mountain range to take that letter on. At moment on the topmost grade, while open fire doors glare, she passes like a living thing to breathe the mountain air. Then launches down the other side across the plains away to bear that note to Conroy's sheep along the Castle Ray. And now by coach and mailman's bag it goes from town to town, and Conroy's Gap and Conroy's Creek have marked it further down. Beneath a sky of deepest blue, whenever cloud abides, a speck upon the waste of plain the lonely mailman rides, where fierce hot winds have set the pine and mild boughs of sweep. He hails the shearers passing by for news of Conroy's sheep. By big lagoons where wild fowl play and crested pigeons flock, by campfires where the drovers ride around their restless stock, and past the teamster toiling down to fetch the wool away, my letter chases Conroy's sheep along the Castle Ray. I have read that. I do remember that now. But yeah.
Care of Conroy's sheep.
So how many sheep were in it?
Wow, 5,000 or something, wasn't it?
5 and something.
5 and 20,000.
5 and
25,000.
It's a lot of sheep.
That's a lot of sheep, yeah. Yeah, well, you know, they say that New Zealand had a lot of sheep, but Australia's sheep actually used to outnumber New Zealand sheep 3 to 1.
Yeah.
We've got bigger paddocks, yeah.
Yeah, we do, yeah. And they didn't get, you know, lost in the valleys over in New Zealand, yeah. Moonbee. Now Moonbee Range, that's just
Tamworth.
that's where you come up. Oh, that's where the big chook is. Oh, I've climbed up on that. Moonbee. Yeah. Oh, this is another one called Over the Range. And so Moonbee is what, about an hour and a half south of.
From here, it's about an hour and 10.
An hour and 10 minutes.
So it's
from Guyra.
It's a third of the way
Okay.
north of Tamworth.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Come out of Tamworth up Katingle, do the Moonbees, and then you're along the Tableland.
All right. Well, this is another Banjo Paterson called Over the Range, and it mentions Moonbee there,
Yep.
which is, and you know why they got the big chook is because it's where they have lots of chook farms. Yeah.
That's it.
Little bush maiden, wandering-eyed, playing along the creek bed dry in the small green flat on every side, walled in by the Moonbee ranges high. Tell me the tale of your lonely life mid the great grey forests that know change. I've never left my home, she said. I've never been over the Moonbee range. Father and mother are both long dead, and I live with Granny in yon wee place. Where are your father and mother, I said. She puzzled a while, a thoughtful face. Then with a light came into shy brown eyes. She smiled, for she thought the question strange. On a thing so certain, when people die, they go to the country over the range. And what's this country like, my lass? Are there blossoming trees and pretty flowers and shining creeks where the golden grass is fresh and sweet from summer showers? They never need work nor want nor weep. No troubles can come to their hearts to estrange. Some summer night I shall fall asleep and wake in the country over the range. Child, you are wise in your simple trust, for the wisest man knows no more than you. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Our views by a range are bounded too, but we know that God hath this gift in store, that when we come to the final change, we shall meet with our loved ones gone before to the beautiful country over the range. I read that one too, and I do like that one a lot. Yeah. So, Tale of an Orphaned Aboriginal Girl. Whoop Whoop, another verses. Heaven. This is by Hunter Kilner, written in the 15th of January 1999. I think 1999. Yes, 99 it says. There are several concepts of heaven, so we search from the time of our birth. Some seek it on cloud lucky 7, not knowing it's right here on earth. On past deeds it's pretty to ponder, on achievements it's fruitless to dwell. The solution is out in the yonder, on the highway to heaven or hell. Yes, and your answers are there if you need them, but I think if you search you will find that happiness, heaven and freedom is simply a state of one's mind. The old turtle slides to the surface of the stream where he chooses to swim. I feel sure for all intents and purpose, where he is pure heaven to him. In the clouds I see a bird soaring. Is it heaven for him there on high? Oh, sometimes when life becomes boring, oh, how I wish, like that bird, I could fly. Gazing down, I could fulfill my wishes, see the mountain, the rivers, the mountains and sea, the flora, the fauna, the fishes. Oh, Lord, what a life it would be. So to sum up the subject of heaven, be it here now or hence up above, I'll remain here on earth unshriven, just searching for meaning and love.
It works on the assumption that birds don't ever get bored.
No. No, I don't think they probably do.
So that's a human sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, but that's because, they probably don't have the word for on board. They've just got...
Oh, it's only some humans get bored too. I don't get time to get bored.
No, me neither. No. Boredom is a state of thinking that there is something more important that you could be doing.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This one was written last night and is my entry in the Bruce Dorr Poetry Competition for 2021. I've entered that 2 years ago, didn't enter it last year, but I thought, I might as well put something in. And
What's its parameters?
50 lines or less.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it. No topic, no nothing. The entry closes, I think, on the 4th of June, something like that, or the 12th of June. You've got 3 weeks to put it in. You do it online through USQ, University of Southern Queensland, because Bruce Dorr was one of the lecturers in poetry up there and literature, which is
I thought he was a West Australian.
Sorry?
I thought he was a West Australian. Or he might be.
He might have been, but I know he spent his last part of his life and a long time up there in the University of Southern Queensland at Toowoomba.
It's a Dorr, D-A-W.
D-A-W-E, yeah. Bruce Dorr.
Poetry prize.
I can just Google that if you want. And
I think Saul's doing that.
I know, I'm just writing it down so I can Google it later.
Bruce Dorr Poetry Prize. There it is.
Thank you.
The Bruce Dorr National Poetry Prize. Entries are open until the 4th of June, so I was right, yeah. Yeah. So, Bruce Dorr Poetry Prize. Bruce Dorr, poet. Here it is. Yeah. So, he was born in Fitzroy. He died on the 1st of April 2020, so just last year, just over 12 months away, in Caloundra.
Kevin Gilbert died on the 1st of April too.
Did he? Okay.
That's what I saw. Where did I see it? Another bit of information.
Yeah, so in 1999, so here it is. He was appointed lecturer at Darling Downs Institute of Advanced Education, Toowoomba, in 1971, became a senior lecturer in 1980, an associate professor following the status change to the USQ, University of Southern Queensland. He retired from teaching in 1993, so 22 years teaching up there at University of Southern Queensland. He held 4 university degrees. So yeah, in 1999, in appreciation of the opportunities he had while teaching at the University of Southern Queensland, Dorr endowed a National Poetry Prize of $2,500 awarded annually to help support poets and recognise the important contribution they make to Australian society. So yeah, and the prize this year I think is $3,000. So it's small. It's gone up. There's inflation. So this is my
GPS, mate. GPS.
Yeah, it is. Written last night. I was inspired by Judith Wright for this. Her poem her book, her poem South of My Days, which I can do, but I won't do. I might do it after this. I think I did it last week anyway. Yeah. This is called Winter of My Content. Half a century of winters is only 12.5 years. Sitting around fires with friends once involved beers, bongs and joints. Guyra is different. Cold, frosty, alone. This is the winter of my content, and I run. After 50 years for many is twilight. This is my dawn, my sunrise. Cold frost crystals glint in the morning light. Even summer is cold with crepuscular rays through fog and snow gums at Thunderbolt's cave. Inhaling deep, exhaling steam, running over granite boulders and rock, Angus cattle, goats and sheep in a flock. Ciggies, beers, bongs and eat-meeting dropped in procession. Health and wellness a new obsession, and I run. And poetry, and poetry, and poetry. Poet and a tree. Everywhere, trees. Red maples with bright red leaves line the main street, turning to hibernating skeletons as winter approaches. The cold winds blow leaves and the winter of my content encroaches. Acclimating to the cold, the early morning hours are employed alone, bringing joy. Ears ring as rainbow lorikeets and white cockatoos screech and sing. Blessed am I to experience this bliss and peace. Hey sheep, are you cold with shorn fleece? And I run! Tears in eyes, emotions rise, misty sunrise, 2 rabbits running, a surprise. Slender rice flowers form parasols with snowgrass, kangaroo grass, bright yellow common buttercups, Yara Kulgumpa. Mini buses of Pacific workers in high-vis shirts all wave as they pass in the dawn, preparing to pick hydroponic tomatoes in the warm greenhouses. Guyra Casper's soccer field, empty, frost-covered. Guyra Super Spuds rugby league field, empty, frost-covered, and I run. Snow tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is only now, alone, experiencing each moment in slow motion. Time slows, wind blows. The winter of my content is a magic potion, tasting like hot chocolate with marshmallows. The dew on spider's web glints like the beard of a wizard, casting spells to create the approaching blizzard. And I run. Take one part meditation, throw in a little elation. Feels like -5, but it's 0. I run to warm up, not to be a hero, to increase the production of cold stressor protein, pumping arms and legs like a machine. The beauty of winter makes ointment. This is the winter of my content, and I run.
I think that deserves a round of applause, that one.
Thank you.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's a great idea, the winter of my content.
yeah.
I mean, it always amazes me when someone, it comes up with this thing, and it's just so obvious once you've said it. Of course, the winter of my content. Why didn't I think of that? And there it is. That's great.
Yeah, well, it's sort of in Shakespeare's
Shakespeare.
Richard
I'm not sure.
III, I think it was. The Winter of Our Discontent.
That's the one that everyone knows.
Yeah, and then there's also a 1969 book called The Summer of Our Discontent as well.
Is it?
Yeah. So.
See, people aren't used to listening to positive things. Negative things through history are the things that really group.
Yeah.
And that's why Shakespeare was a genius. He was the first person to write positive stuff.
Yeah, I just it was just so mean that in those moments where I'm out and it's so peaceful and it's like gorgeously beautiful, and there are times when I'm out there and I know that I'm the only one out there, and it's as cold, and the fingers are like feel like ice, and the toes too, but like everything about it is so gorgeous and beautiful. And there's a word that I kind of invented, which is an acronym called lolfobbage. And it's like when I'm out there, and it's like there's times when I get so much bliss and joy, and it's like I start to like get really happy, and then I start to cry. So lolfobbage is love of lice, feeling of bliss, joy, bliss, ecstasy, joy, lolfobbage. Yeah. I don't know, but it works for me anyway. I wanted to have some kind of word to describe that feeling, and it became the acronym of all of those feelings of like, it's just an overwhelming just feeling of, maybe that's what the birds feel when they're out there. Bliss, yeah, as they're flying in that air. It also gets me how come like it can be like -5 and ducks don't have warm shoes. Do their legs get cold? Do their toes get cold? Do the ducks cold feet? I don't know. Yeah. All right. Now there's a couple more one more I want to do. Sea horse medicine. Oh, the seahorse. This is because the other one I read about the seahorse here. This is from Seahorse Medicine 3. I've got to find it now. Oh, it's not here. I will find it. That's the one. Seahorse Medicine for Growing Humans. It's called Seahorse Medicine 1, like W-O-N, but it's the first one. The reason I've chosen the seahorse is because the seahorse is a nurturing man. It's where the male takes the eggs and has the pregnancy. So it was kind of synchronistic that seahorse poem popped up before. I didn't even choose it. I just kind of randomly opened the page and there it was. The seahorse is a gentleman and he swims across the sea. The male has the babies and goes through pregnancy. He's strong but not so large. He swims free on his own, protecting all his children in his blue sea home. The seahorse is a nurturer. He filter cleans the sea, choking on the plastic used by you and me. He takes care of the children and he doesn't have a wife, swimming freely in the ocean blue, loving all his life. The seahorse is a gentleman, strong and gentle with all life. He holds his women by the hand, riding waves on the sea of life. The seahorse makes decisions for his family. He lives alone in his big blue home so that he is free. The seahorse is a lover and he doesn't like to fight, so by the night he makes love of ecstasy and light. The seahorse knows affection and hugs and strokes the hair. He has the touch of tenderness that makes him say, oh yeah. The seahorse is men's medicine to keep a happy home, nurture love with strength and joy in the blue sea all alone. He is a peaceful warrior in the ocean blue, a diamond heart, everyone's friend and the children's father too. And that's the seahorse there, yeah. All right. And that's it for me tonight for now. Yeah. Would you like to come up, Saul?
I read a couple.
All right.
I've only got a couple. Well, I've read one before, but did this sort of thing the other day where we were doing some writing and we were writing sort of like half a dozen words for each other and writing little poems. And I came up with this little sort of like intellectual poem sort of thing that I thought was pretty sort of quaint because of course the word I got given, one of my words was pigeon. So yes, it goes, life so full of tribulations, the library full of explanations. But if a pigeon read a book, how much different would its life look? Rising up above adversity, the pigeon rose and rose and rose and rose, until one day all its wisdom fell away, when from high above it spotted its true love. Enough of books and highfalutin, I'd much rather spend my day rootin'. So down he flew, no books today, with my pigeon love, that's where I'll stay.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was just a whimsical little thing.
Well, it kind of fits in a bit of the theme there that we've been talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. And this is another one that's got another bit of rootin' in it, so beware. This is one of my Tales of the Moon, one of my early ones. So yeah, pouring from the moon, splashing through the trees, making love to you, making love to me. Highlights in the shadows, shadow all the rest, cascading on our love. By moonbeams we are blessed. drawn in from the sea, drifting through the dunes, making love to you, to me, making love to you, animates the shadows, sighs love songs through the grasses, carries off our scented sweat, the breeze cools our pumping asses. Openness, connection, we fall onto the lover thus, making love to all, making love to us. Meeting in the shadows, they are melted by our flame, the sky above inspires, what the earth beneath maintains.
Oh,
That's lovely.
yes, right. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn this off.
You go.
All right, well, that's it for tonight from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame Open Mic Night, and we're going to turn it
James.
off. Thank you very much.